So we moved on to James. We're moving on to James chapter 3, verses 1 to 12. And again, we're looking at how our words make a difference to our lives and to the lives of other people. James says, "My brethren, let not many of you become teachers, knowing that we shall receive a stricter judgment. For we all stumble in many things. If anyone does not stumble in word, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle the whole body." So James is talking here about the fact that we can, although we stumble in many ways, if we don't stumble in the word, if we're careful with our words, if we tame the tongue, if we get a handle on, motor mouth, if we stop ourselves from being too gobby, if we stop ourselves from being too in your face, and just maybe contain a little bit and think before we speak, engage the brain before opening the gob, if we start to think a bit more and exercise wisdom in what we say, and to think about what we're saying, the effect it has on others, not only on others but ourselves. And there's many ways that this comes, this affects our lives, because whatever we profess over ourselves, that usually comes to pass. When we speak a word, whether it's a word of failure or a word of "I can't do this," or "this is always happening to me," or "I'm in a bad way," if we speak that out, then that usually is what's going out into the universe. What normally comes back, it's the law of sowing and reaping. It's that law that that we have to be very, very careful of. Whatever we sow, we get back. If we sow potatoes, we get potatoes. If we sow carrots, we get carrots. But if we're speaking out into the universe and we're giving off these vibes of negativity, we'll get it back. No doubt about it. If we're sowing love, we're going to get love back. And it's the same with our words. It's the same with what we say with our speech to our children, to our neighbours, to our friends, to everybody. There is this need that we have to get our tongues under control. It says in verse 5, "Even so the tongue, a little member, and boasts great things, but see how great a little fire kindles." And it talks about the tongue being like a rudder of a ship. It's a little rudder, but it turns the whole ship. And so we have to be very careful, because it can be used for evil. What is it in us that sometimes want to criticise others? What is it in us that wants to jibe at other people? What is it in us that causes us to be sarcastic and cutting? Even though we cover it over with humour, we're actually digging a knife in people. We're actually firing off arrows to people. Sarcasm is the lowest form of wit, and it's destructive. It is not good, because it's our words that are coming out. This is where the schools have picked up on the fact, we used to say, "Sticks and stones will break my bones, names will never hurt me." But the schools in the later years have been saying, no, that's not true. Words are important. Names calling is important. We can bully people and intimidate people by what we say. We can cause people problems by what we say. We can condemn and criticise and complain. And if you go on a Dale Carnegie course of public speaking, one of the things they'll teach you will be not to criticise, condemn or complain, to be positive, to always speak out positives and encourage people, and at the same time you feel better in yourself. When you're gossiping about something, when you're giving out, and sometimes, in your heart, you're saying something, you shouldn't really be saying that. You might be talking of someone in a wrong way. You might be passing on a little bit of, little juicy bit of gossip, and that you're actually damaging someone, or you're causing the person who's actually hearing the gossip, that's actually wounding them in some way, that they don't actually need to hear that from you. And so, this is where the tongue, it really can be quite destructive. And as ministers, as Christians, as members of the church, as to be salt and light in the world. So not just be light to show our actions You know, to be salt, what we say is like it puts salt. What we say and what we do, it puts salt into the world and gives it a flavour. And you know, that's why the TV, the media, since that's come, we've had television, that, you know, it's spewing out words every day into our children's minds, into our minds, and it does cause people to do things and think differently because of all the stuff that's being spoken out. We hear it, and it affects us. So the word, speaking, communication is very, very important. This is all about the word and communication today. And so we see that, you know, the tongue can be very good or it can be very destructive, and we must not allow ourselves as believers to cause destruction. We should be empowering people. We should be encouraging people. You know, Barnabas with Paul, he was the son of encouragement. That was his name. Barnabas, what means the son of encouragement. And, you know, it's obvious that he was a support to Paul. To have this kind of encouraging, positive word from someone on a regular basis, it is so important in people's lives that you have someone who's encouraging you by their word and doing something positive with their words. And you know that if someone's encouraging and positive and speaks caring words to you, you know that they have a caring heart. If someone is speaking gossip about someone, guess what? You might think, oh, they're sharing that with me because I'm special. But that same person will be talking about you next. You're the one who's going to be gossiped about. Then you start listening to someone coming, oh, I need to tell you this because I won't tell anybody else. You know, this is a secret. I need to tell you this. You've got to hear this. This is amazing, you know. And you listen and you take it on board, and you should be saying, no, I don't really need to hear that, I don't think. You know, you need to take that and just contain it, you know, because I don't want to feel bad towards other people, and I don't want this kind of input. Thank you. So, you know, because if they're doing it to someone else today, they'll be doing it to you tomorrow. And so this is where gossips and people that can't keep their mouth closed and can't hold secrets and can't contain, this is where they get it really, really wrong. And they need to be taken to task over this. They need to be brought up. They need to be pulled up over it. When someone does this with you, do not collude with them. Don't go into a gossip mode. Don't become a gossip yourself. If someone wants to gossip, you say, no, I'm sorry, but I don't think this is honouring to God. That's the point. It's not honouring to God. It's not, I think you're a bad person, but I think, you know, do you think we should be saying this? Do you think we should be talking? I don't think we should be having this conversation. Let's just, you know, let's just honour God in this and say, no, we don't need to go there. And so that's one of the things. And it says here, with it we bless that God and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the similitude of God. So, you know, in 1 minute we're actually praising God, saying, oh Lord, we love you, we bless you, Lord, and the next minute we're cursing our brother or sister. Something's not quite right there. And so we need to take stock of this. This is a word today which is a warning to us. This is a word that is very important to use our words and our thoughts, get our thoughts together and be thinking godly thoughts. You know, as a Christian we should be thinking about honouring God in our lives all the time, and instead of becoming motor mouth, we need to be maybe being a little bit more reserved with what we say, not being so free with our information, not telling other people things that is going to cause them to feel upset, not worthy, jealous, problems, any of these things. You know, we've got to be really careful. It says, out of the same mouth proceeds blessings and cursing. And it just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. He goes on to say, can a fig tree, my brethren, bear olives, or a grapevine bear figs? Thus no spring yields both salt water and fresh. Something's not quite right in you if you are doing this, if you are professing Christ, and yet at the same time you're criticising, condemning and complaining and gossiping and, you know, putting out negative stuff about your brothers and sisters, or causing other people to feel uncomfortable by some of the things you say. So slander is definitely a very wrong thing. You know, we're not to be slanderous. We're not to be backbiting. We're not to be gossips. We're not to stir up the flame of any problems that are going on. We're supposed to be peacemakers. And so therefore, today, the message that's coming through very, very clearly to me is that the words that come out of our mouths can really betray us, can betray our hearts. If that's what's in our hearts, we need to get right with God. If we are gossips and backbiters and people that want to stir up problems for other people, we need to get right with God. It's not right to be that way. It's a really wrong thing to do. And speaking against our brothers and sisters in whatever way, it is really wrong. You know, what happened to grace? We have been given grace by the Lord Jesus. We should exercise grace in what we do. And so we move on to now the New Testament,